Marcus Johnson was born in a small town where everyone knew each other's names, but opportunities were as rare as rain during a drought. The streets were lined with modest houses, and life moved at a slow pace. For most people, ambition wasn't something they thought about much. It was enough just to get by. But Marcus was different. From the time he was a little boy, his mind buzzed with ideas, dreams, and plans for the future. He didn't want to settle. He wanted to soar. His mother, Evelyn, worked tirelessly to provide for him. She cleaned offices during the day and waited tables at night, her hands calloused from years of hard labor. Despite her exhaustion, she always encouraged Marcus to dream big. "You can be anything you want to be," she'd tell him every night before bed, even though their circumstances suggested otherwise. Her unwavering belief became Marcus's anchor whenever doubt crept into his heart. School wasn't easy for Marcus. As one of the few black students in his class, he often felt like an outsider. Some kids teased him, while others simply ignored him. Teachers sometimes overlooked his potential, assuming he wouldn't amount to much because of where he came from. But Marcus refused to let their opinions define him. Instead, he poured himself into his studies, determined to prove them wrong. He spent hours reading books, solving math problems, and writing essays late into the night. When his grades started climbing to the top of the class, some teachers acted surprised. But Marcus knew better than to seek validation from those who doubted him. By high school, Marcus had become known as the quiet kid who always aced his exams. While his classmates talked about sports or music, Marcus preferred tinkering with gadgets and sketching out designs for inventions that could change the world, or at least make life easier for people like his mom. One day, after seeing how much effort it took for Evelyn to manage her tiny catering business, Marcus came up with an idea. What if there was a way to automate some of the tedious tasks she did every day? He spent weeks researching and drawing diagrams, imagining a system that could help small businesses run more efficiently. Though no one else seemed interested in his project, Marcus kept refining it, knowing deep down that it mattered, even if no one else saw its value yet. When graduation rolled around, Marcus faced another challenge. College applications required money his family didn't have. But Evelyn reminded him of something important. If doors are closed, we knock until they open. So Marcus applied for every scholarship he could find, writing heartfelt essays about his journey and his dreams. His hard work paid off when he received not one but 3 scholarships, allowing him to attend a prestigious university on a full ride. College was a whole new world for Marcus. Surrounded by students from privileged backgrounds, he felt out of place once again. Many of them drove fancy cars, wore expensive clothes, and spoke confidently about internships at top companies. Marcus, on the other hand, wore hand-me-downs and relied on financial aid to eat. But none of that stopped him. If anything, it fueled his determination to succeed. He majored in computer science, a field he'd grown to love through his earlier experiments with technology. Late nights in the library and early mornings in the lab became his routine. Slowly but surely, he began earning the respect of his professors and peers, not because of what he wore or where he came from, but because of the brilliance of his ideas. After graduating at the top of his class, Marcus landed a job at a mid-sized tech company. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. On his first day, he walked into the office filled with excitement, ready to contribute and learn. Little did he know, however, that the challenges he thought he'd left behind were far from over. At meetings, his suggestions were often met with indifference or outright dismissal. Colleagues would interrupt him mid-sentence or talk over him as if his voice didn't matter. Sometimes, ideas he proposed were later presented by someone else, without giving him credit. At first, Marcus tried to brush it off. He told himself that maybe he needed to speak louder or assert himself more. But the pattern continued, wearing him down bit by bit. Still, he refused to give up. He reminded himself of all the obstacles he'd already overcome and vowed to keep pushing forward. After all, he hadn't come this far just to let anyone or anything stand in his way. One evening, as Marcus sat at his desk staring at a blank screen, inspiration struck. Remembering the struggles his mother faced running her catering business, he decided to revisit the concept he'd dreamed up in high school. This time he envisioned turning it into a real product, a mobile app that would revolutionize logistics for small businesses. The idea excited him so much that he couldn't sleep. Over the next few weeks, he devoted every spare moment to developing the concept, crafting detailed plans, and researching how to bring it to life. He knew it had the potential to be groundbreaking, if only someone would take it seriously. But Marcus also knew that pitching such a bold idea wouldn't be easy, especially in an environment where his contributions were routinely underestimated. Still, he believed in himself and his vision, and soon he would discover that believing in yourself is sometimes all it takes to turn a dream into reality, even when the odds seem stacked against you. The weekly brainstorming meeting was a ritual at the tech company where Marcus worked. It was supposed to be a space for creativity, collaboration, and innovation, a chance for employees to pitch their ideas and contribute to the company's growth. But for Marcus, these meetings had become something else entirely, a test of patience and resilience. Over the months, he'd learned that his voice often went unheard in the room, drowned out by louder, more confident colleagues or dismissed outright by those who didn't take him seriously. Still, Marcus refused to stay silent. He knew the value of his ideas even if others didn't. This particular Monday morning felt different, though. Marcus had spent the entire weekend fine-tuning his latest proposal, an app designed to streamline logistics for small businesses. He called it Logiflow, a platform that would simplify inventory management, order tracking, and delivery scheduling, all in one user-friendly interface. The idea was inspired by his mother's struggles with her catering business, but it had broader applications that could benefit countless entrepreneurs. Marcus believed in its potential so strongly that he couldn't wait to share it with the team. As he sat in the conference room waiting for his turn to speak, Marcus rehearsed his pitch in his head. He imagined how the room would react, nodding. Heads, thoughtful questions, maybe even a few compliments. For once, he allowed himself to hope that this time would be different. When Greg, the team lead, finally called on him, Marcus stood up, took a deep breath, and began. "Good morning, everyone," he started, his voice steady despite the nerves bubbling inside him. "I'd like to present an idea I've been working on called Logiflow. It's a mobile app designed to help small businesses manage their logistics more efficiently. Think about it. Small business owners spend hours every week juggling orders, tracking deliveries, and managing inventory. This app would automate those processes, saving them time and money while improving accuracy." Marcus clicked through a series of slides he'd prepared, highlighting key features like real-time updates, customizable dashboards, and integration with existing tools. He spoke passionately, explaining how Logiflow could fill a gap in the market and create opportunities for underserved communities. As he wrapped up his presentation, he looked around the room, expecting at least a flicker of interest. Instead, he was met with silence. For a moment, no one said anything. Then Greg cleared his throat and leaned back in his chair, a smirk playing on his lips. "Interesting thought, Marcus," he said slowly, drawing out each word as if savoring the sarcasm dripping from his tone. "But honestly, it doesn't seem very scalable. You know what I mean?" He glanced around the table, seeking confirmation from the others. A few people nodded awkwardly, avoiding eye contact with Marcus. "Maybe stick to simpler tasks next time, okay?" The room seemed to shrink around Marcus. His cheeks burned, and his chest tightened as he forced himself to nod, politely. "Thank you for the feedback, Greg," he managed to say, his voice calm despite the storm raging inside him. He quickly gathered his notes and returned to his seat, trying to ignore the weight of embarrassment pressing down on him. What Greg and everyone else in the room didn't know was that Marcus had already taken steps to bring Logiflow to life. In fact, he'd been working on it quietly for months, using his evenings and weekends to develop a prototype. Just last week, he'd pitched the idea to a group of venture capitalists who were so impressed that they offered him seed funding on the spot. With their support, Marcus had secured enough capital to launch a beta version of the app within the next few months. The same idea Greg had dismissed as not scalable was now poised to revolutionize an entire industry. Back at his desk, Marcus replayed the meeting in his mind, dissecting every word Greg had said. He couldn't help but feel frustrated, not just because his idea had been rejected, but because it had been dismissed without even being considered. It wasn't the first time this had happened, and Marcus knew it wouldn't be the last. But instead of letting anger consume him, he channeled it into determination. If Greg and the rest of the team couldn't see the value in his work, that was their loss. Marcus was done waiting for validation from people who refused to look beyond their biases. Over the next few days, Marcus threw himself into perfecting Logiflow. He reached out to friends and mentors for advice, conducted surveys to gather feedback from potential users, and collaborated with freelance developers to refine the app's design. Every late night and early morning brought him closer to turning his vision into reality. Meanwhile, at the office, things remained tense. Greg continued to treat Marcus with thinly veiled condescension, assigning him menial tasks and excluding him from important projects. Other team members followed Greg's lead, either out of fear or indifference. Despite the hostility, Marcus kept his head down and focused on his goals. He reminded himself that success wasn't about proving anyone wrong, it was about creating something meaningful. And as the weeks passed, Logiflow began gaining traction. Beta testers praised its ease of use and efficiency, and local news outlets started covering the story of a young innovator making waves in the tech world. Before long, Marcus received inquiries from investors eager to get involved. By the time he handed in his resignation letter, the app had already attracted significant attention, earning him recognition as a rising star in the startup community. Looking back, Marcus realized that moments like the one in the meeting room had shaped him in ways he never expected. They taught him the importance of resilience, self-belief, and perseverance. More importantly, they showed him that sometimes the greatest victories come not from fighting back but from rising above. While Greg and the others may have underestimated him, Marcus knew that true success wasn't defined by external validation. It was measured by the impact you made and the lives you touched along the way. And as he walked out of the office for the last time, he carried that lesson with him, ready to build a future where his ideas, and those of others like him, would never be overlooked again. After leaving his job at the tech company, Marcus threw himself into building Logiflow with a renewed sense of purpose. The sting of Greg's dismissal still lingered in the back of his mind, but instead of letting it drag him down, Marcus used it as fuel to push harder. He reminded himself daily that success wasn't about proving someone wrong. It was about creating something meaningful and impactful. With the seed funding secured from venture capitalists, he assembled a small team of talented developers, designers, and marketers who shared his vision. Together, they worked tirelessly to turn Logiflow into a reality. The early days of the startup were grueling. Marcus often found himself working 16-hour days, juggling countless responsibilities while trying to keep everyone motivated. There were moments when doubt crept in, times when technical glitches threatened to derail progress or when potential clients hesitated to commit. But Marcus refused to let setbacks slow him down. He'd learned long ago that failure wasn't final, unless you allowed it to be. So whenever challenges arose, he tackled them head-on, determined to find solutions no matter how difficult the path became. One of the biggest hurdles Marcus faced was gaining trust in an industry dominated by established players. Many small business owners were skeptical of new technology, especially when it came from someone without a well-known brand behind them. To overcome this, Marcus decided to take a personal approach. He visited local businesses, sitting down with owners to understand their pain points and demonstrate how Logiflow could solve their problems. His genuine passion for helping others quickly won people over, and soon, word of mouth began spreading. Within months, dozens of businesses had signed up to use the app, providing valuable feedback that helped refine its features even further. As Logiflow gained traction, Marcus also made sure to prioritize inclusivity within his own team. Having experienced firsthand what it felt like to be underestimated because of his race, he vowed never to let bias influence hiring decisions or workplace dynamics. He recruited individuals from diverse backgrounds, ensuring that everyone had a voice and an opportunity to contribute. This inclusive culture not only fostered creativity, but also strengthened the team's bond, making them more resilient in the face of adversity. Despite his growing success, Marcus remained humble. He never forgot where he came from or the struggles his mother endured to give him a better life. Whenever things got tough, he thought about her. How she'd wake up before dawn to prepare meals for catering events. How she'd come home exhausted, yet still find the energy to encourage him to chase his dreams. Her sacrifices inspired him to stay grounded and focused, reminding him that every step forward was a testament to her love and hard work. By the end of the first year, Logiflow had transformed from a simple idea into a thriving platform with thousands of users across multiple states. The app streamlined operations for small businesses, saving them time and money while boosting productivity. Entrepreneurs who once struggled to manage logistics now praised Logiflow as a game-changer. Media outlets began taking notice, publishing articles about Marcus's journey and the innovative solution he'd created. Investors flocked to get involved, eager to support a product that addressed a real need in the market. But Marcus didn't stop there. As demand for Logiflow grew, he expanded its capabilities, adding features like predictive analytics, automated invoicing, and integration with popular e-commerce platforms. These enhancements not only attracted larger clients, but also positioned Logiflow as a leader in the logistics space. By the second year, the company had reached a valuation of $50 million, a milestone that shocked even Marcus himself. Yet he remained committed to staying true to his roots, refusing to compromise on the values that had brought him this far. Meanwhile, tensions at his former workplace continued to escalate. Greg, unaware of Marcus's achievements, doubled down on his dismissive behavior, treating him with increasing hostility. When Marcus quietly handed in his resignation letter, offering vague hints about pursuing other opportunities, Greg barely glanced at it. He assumed Marcus was moving on to another entry-level role somewhere else, never imagining that the quiet, unassuming employee he'd consistently undermined was now running a multi-million-dollar startup. Even after leaving the company, Marcus chose not to dwell on bitterness. Instead, he channeled his energy into mentoring aspiring entrepreneurs, particularly those from underrepresented communities. He gave talks at schools and community centers, sharing his story and encouraging young people to believe in themselves, no matter what obstacles they faced. Success isn't about where you start, he often said during these speeches. It's about how far you're willing to go and how much you're willing to fight for your dreams. Logiflow's rapid growth caught the attention of major players in the tech industry. One day, Marcus received an email from a global conglomerate expressing interest in acquiring his company. At first, he hesitated. Selling Logiflow meant giving up control, and Marcus wasn't ready to let go of the project he'd poured his heart and soul into. But after careful consideration, he realized that partnering with a larger organization could amplify its impact, reaching even more businesses and transforming lives on a global scale. Negotiations moved quickly, and within weeks, the deal was finalized. The acquisition catapulted Logiflow's valuation to over $2 billion, cementing Marcus's status as one of the most influential figures in the tech world. News of the sale spread like wildfire, earning headlines in newspapers and magazines around the globe. Friends, family, and former colleagues reached out to congratulate him, many expressing awe at how far he'd come in such a short time. Through it all, Marcus stayed grounded, remembering the lessons he'd learned along the way. He knew that success wasn't just about numbers or accolades. It was about creating opportunities for others and leaving a lasting legacy. And as he prepared to step into his new role as CEO of the conglomerate, Marcus felt a deep sense of gratitude. Gratitude for his mother, whose sacrifices made everything possible. Gratitude for the challenges that taught him resilience. And gratitude for the naysayers whose doubts only pushed him to prove them wrong. Little did Marcus know, however, that his journey was far from over. In fact, the ripple effects of his success were about to reach places and people he least expected, including those who had once dismissed him. For now, though, Marcus focused on what lay ahead, a future filled with endless possibilities and the chance to inspire others to dream bigger than ever before. The announcement of Marcus Johnson's appointment as the CEO of a global conglomerate sent shockwaves through the business world and directly back to his former workplace. It was a crisp Monday morning when Greg, the team lead who had once dismissed Marcus's idea so casually, stumbled upon the headline during his lunch break. He was scrolling through a tech news website sipping on his coffee when the bold text caught his eye. Marcus Johnson appointed CEO of $2.1 billion conglomerate. At first, Greg thought it was a coincidence, a different Marcus Johnson, surely, but as he read further, his stomach dropped. The article described how Marcus had founded Logiflow, the logistics app that was now transforming industries worldwide, and how its acquisition had skyrocketed the company's valuation. There was even a photo of Marcus shaking hands with executives at the conglomerate's headquarters. His face was unmistakable, the same quiet, unassuming man Greg had worked alongside for years. Greg nearly choked on his sandwich as reality sank in. The memory of that fateful brainstorming meeting came rushing back. He could still hear his own dismissive words ringing in his ears. Interesting thought, but it doesn't seem very scalable. How wrong he had been. Not only had Marcus turned that unscalable idea into a billion-dollar success, but he was now leading one of the most influential companies in the industry. Panic set in as Greg realized the magnitude of what he'd done. He hadn't just underestimated Marcus, he'd publicly humiliated him in front of their entire team. What if Marcus held a grudge? What if word got out about Greg's behavior? Desperate to salvage his reputation, Greg decided to reach out. That evening, after hours of agonizing over what to say, he drafted an email. "Congratulations on your incredible achievement," he wrote, trying to sound sincere. "I always knew you, had great potential, and I'm thrilled to see you succeeding at such a high level." He ended the message with a vague offer to catch up sometime and hit send before he could second-guess himself. To Greg's surprise, Marcus replied within hours. His response was polite, but firm. "Thank you for reaching out, Greg," Marcus wrote. "Your support means a lot. If there's one thing I've learned from my journey, it's the importance of treating people with respect and giving everyone a fair chance. You taught me how not to treat people, and for that I'm actually grateful." Greg stared at the screen, his face burning with shame. The words stung, not because they were harsh, but because they were true. For years he had prided himself on being a strong leader, someone who pushed his team to excel. But now he saw the cracks in his facade. He had let bias cloud his judgment, dismissing Marcus not because his ideas lacked merit, but because he couldn't see past his own assumptions. It wasn't just Marcus who had suffered. It was the entire team, robbed of the opportunity to benefit from his brilliance. As news of Marcus's rise spread, whispers began circulating around the office. Colleagues who had once followed Greg's lead now questioned his leadership style. Some admitted they'd noticed Marcus's talent all along, but had stayed silent out of fear of rocking the boat. Others expressed regret for not standing up for him when he was treated unfairly. The atmosphere shifted overnight, with many employees vowing to be more inclusive and supportive moving forward. Meanwhile, Marcus wasted no time settling into his new role as CEO. From day one, he made it clear that his leadership would be defined by inclusivity, transparency, and innovation. He implemented policies aimed at fostering diversity within the conglomerate, including mentorship programs for underrepresented groups and initiatives to close the gender pay gap. He also introduced town hall meetings where employees at every level could voice their ideas and concerns without fear of judgment. Under his guidance, the company culture began to transform, becoming a model for others in the industry. One of Marcus's first major decisions as CEO was to partner with small businesses, many of which had inspired Logiflow's creation, to help them grow and thrive. He launched a program offering free access to the app for startups and entrepreneurs in underserved communities, ensuring that the tool he'd built remained accessible to those who needed it most. This move earned widespread praise not only for its impact but also for its symbolism. Marcus was sending a powerful message. Success isn't just about climbing the ladder, It's about pulling others up with you. Despite his newfound fame, Marcus remained remarkably humble. In interviews, he often spoke about the challenges he'd faced and the lessons he'd learned along the way. When asked about Greg and the infamous brainstorming meeting, Marcus handled the topic with grace. "It was a tough moment, no doubt," he said. "But looking back, I realize it shaped me in ways I didn't expect. It taught me the value of perseverance and the importance of staying true to yourself, even when others don't believe in you. And honestly, it motivated me to work harder, to prove that ideas should be judged on their merit, not on who presents them." His words resonated deeply with audiences around the world. People admired not just his achievements, but also his ability to rise above adversity with dignity and purpose. Social media lit up with stories of individuals who had faced similar struggles, drawing inspiration from Marcus's journey. Hashtags like "Believe in Yourself" and "Rise Above" began trending, sparking conversations about bias, resilience, and the power of determination. Back at his old company, Greg found himself reflecting on his actions and inaction in a way he never had before. He attended a conference where Marcus delivered the keynote speech, hoping to catch a glimpse of the man whose success had shaken him to his core. As Marcus took the stage, the audience erupted into applause. Dressed in a sharp suit and exuding confidence, he looked every bit the part of a visionary leader. But what struck Greg most was the warmth and authenticity in Marcus's voice as he shared his story. "I've been fortunate enough to achieve things I once only dreamed of," Marcus told the crowd. "But none of it would have been possible without the challenges I faced along the way. Every setback, every doubter, every person who underestimated me, they all played a role in shaping who I am today. Instead of letting negativity define me, I chose to use it as fuel to push harder, to dream bigger, and to create something that could make a difference." By the end of the speech, Greg was sitting in stunned silence, tears welling up in his eyes. For the first time, he understood the true cost of underestimating someone based on appearances rather than potential. He also realized that it wasn't too late to change. Inspired by Marcus's example, Greg resolved to become a better leader, one who listened, uplifted, and empowered others instead of tearing them down. As Marcus wrapped up his presentation, he left the audience with a final thought. Success isn't measured by titles or numbers. It's measured by the lives you touch and the legacy you leave behind. So ask yourself, are you using your position to lift others up? Or are you holding them back? The question hung in the air, echoing long after Marcus stepped off the stage. For Greg, it was a wake-up call, a reminder that leadership isn't about authority. It's about responsibility. And for Marcus, it was proof that his journey wasn't just about personal triumph. It was about creating a ripple effect, inspiring others to break free from limitations and strive for greatness. Little did either of them know, this was only the beginning of a much larger story, one that would continue to unfold in ways neither could have imagined. Marcus Johnson's rise to becoming the CEO of a $2.1 billion conglomerate wasn't just a personal victory. It was a catalyst for change, both within the company he now led and in the broader world around him. As weeks turned into months, Marcus poured his energy into creating a legacy that would outlast his tenure. He envisioned a future where everyone, regardless of their background or circumstances, had an equal opportunity to succeed. This vision became the cornerstone of everything he did. Under Marcus's leadership, the conglomerate underwent a dramatic transformation. One of his first initiatives was to establish a diversity and inclusion task force, tasked with identifying and addressing systemic biases across all levels of the organization. The task force conducted workshops, implemented training programs, and created accountability measures to ensure that every employee felt valued and heard. Marcus also introduced a transparent promotion process, eliminating subjective evaluations that often favored certain groups over others. These changes didn't happen overnight, but over time, they began to reshape the company culture, fostering an environment where diverse voices could thrive. Beyond internal reforms, Marcus expanded the conglomerate's outreach efforts. He launched a foundation dedicated to supporting underrepresented entrepreneurs, providing them with funding, mentorship, and resources to turn their ideas into reality. The foundation hosted annual innovation summits, bringing together aspiring business owners from marginalized communities to showcase their projects and connect with investors. Many of these entrepreneurs credited Marcus not only for his financial support, but also for his unwavering belief in their potential, a belief he himself had once yearned for. Logiflow, the app that had started it all, continued to evolve under Marcus's guidance. With access to the conglomerate's vast resources, the platform grew into a global powerhouse, serving millions of small businesses worldwide. What began as a solution to streamline logistics for local caterers had become a lifeline for entrepreneurs everywhere, helping them save time, reduce costs, and scale their operations. Marcus often joked that if Greg, the same Greg who had dismissed his idea, could see Logiflow now, he'd probably try to take credit for it. But Marcus harbored no ill will toward Greg. Instead, he saw him as a reminder of why inclusivity mattered so much. Speaking of Greg, the former team lead found himself grappling with a mix of emotions in the aftermath of Marcus's meteoric rise. At first, guilt consumed him. He replayed the brainstorming meeting in his mind, cringing at how dismissive he had been. But as time passed, Greg began to channel his regret into action. Inspired by Marcus's example, he took steps to become a better leader. He attended diversity training sessions, sought feedback from his team, and actively encouraged quieter employees to share their ideas. Slowly but surely, his colleagues noticed a shift in his behavior. Though he couldn't undo the past, Greg worked tirelessly to rebuild trust and prove that people can change when given the chance. Marcus's influence extended far beyond the corporate world. His story resonated with audiences globally, sparking conversations about bias, resilience, and the importance of second chances. Schools invited him to speak at career days, hoping to inspire students to dream big, despite the odds stacked against them. Community centers organized panels featuring Marcus alongside other trailblazers, discussing how to overcome adversity and create opportunities for others. Even Hollywood came calling, expressing interest in turning his journey into a biopic. A project Marcus humbly agreed to, provided the proceeds went toward supporting underserved youth. Despite his growing fame, Marcus remained deeply connected to his roots. He frequently visited his hometown, where he funded scholarships for students pursuing careers in STEM fields. He also helped revitalize local businesses, many of which had inspired his original idea for Logiflow. Walking through the streets of the neighborhood where he'd grown up, Marcus marveled at how far he'd come, but he never forgot the struggles that had shaped him. Those experiences, painful as they were, had taught him empathy and resilience, qualities he carried with him every day. Years later, Marcus stood on stage at a prestigious awards ceremony, accepting the Global Leadership Award. As cameras flashed and applause filled the room, he reflected on the winding path that had brought him here. "When I first pitched my idea for Logiflow," he began, his voice steady yet filled with emotion, "I was told it wasn't scalable. I was told to stick to simpler tasks. But I refused to let those words define me. Instead, I used them as motivation to push harder, to prove that no obstacle is insurmountable if you believe in your vision." He paused, scanning the audience before continuing. "Today I stand here not just as a testament to what one person can achieve, but as proof of what we can accomplish when we lift each other up. Success isn't about climbing the ladder alone. It's about building bridges so others can climb. 2. It's about recognizing the value in every voice, even when, and especially when, it challenges our assumptions." As Marcus concluded his speech, the crowd rose to its feet in a standing ovation. Among those clapping was Greg, who had flown in to attend the ceremony. Sitting in the audience, he felt a mixture of pride and humility. Pride because he had once worked alongside someone so extraordinary, and humility because he knew he still had much to learn. After the event, Greg approached Marcus, extending his hand with genuine admiration. "You've changed lives, Marcus," he said simply, "including mine." Marcus smiled, shaking Greg's hand firmly. "We all have room to grow." he replied. "What matters is that we keep trying." In the years that followed, Marcus's impact continued to ripple outward. The conglomerate he led became a beacon of innovation and inclusivity, setting new standards for corporate responsibility. Countless individuals whose lives had been touched by his work carried forward his message, creating a chain reaction of positive change. And though Marcus eventually stepped down as CEO to focus on mentoring the next generation of leaders, his legacy endured, a testament to the power of perseverance, compassion, and the belief that everyone deserves a fair shot at success. The story of Marcus Johnson serves as a powerful reminder that greatness often emerges from adversity. It shows us that true leadership isn't about titles or wealth. It's about using your position to uplift others and leave the world better than you found it. For Marcus, the journey wasn't just about achieving his dreams. It was about ensuring that others could chase theirs too. And in doing so, he proved that even the smallest idea, nurtured with passion and purpose, can spark a revolution.